Today I'll be shooting with this weird looking setup, a Nikon Z6 that I've kitted out with accessories to make it more practical for filming, whereas Seb will be shooting on a brand new Canon C70, a camera with plenty of convenient video features built in. Now we could look at footage side by side to compare the image quality, but to be honest I've seen that both are plenty capable of getting a great image. I'm a lot more interested in what they're actually like to use on a shoot, and what better way to test the usability of these cameras than by attempting to film something truly unpredictable, wildlife. So let's see if my mirrorless rig can keep up with a cinema camera. Now me and Seb both shoot documentaries, but neither of us have done much filming of animals before. So I'm pleasantly surprised when this happens after walking for no longer than 10 minutes.
I can see little white shapes and I can see something walking, and I think that is the deer. I wonder if we should take a minute just to observe them for 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And come out with some ideas for stories and things.
But will we be able to shoot enough footage today to tell a story? That is the real question. Well, the first thing I notice is that even these fairly docile and tame deer are not easy to film.
So I think I'm going to move just a touch that way so that this guy in the foreground doesn't get in the way. We can get in the optimum area for a certain pair, but we don't know who's going to be active and who's going to be just sitting around doing nothing.
Now throughout this video I do want to talk about this rig a little bit. I spent way too long building it not to enthuse about it for a moment. It's based around a cage and top handle, so I can add things like this Ninja 5 monitor recorder. The Ninja helps me do two important things that the C70 can do right out of the box: magnify to check focus while recording, and check exposure with false colour. It also adds 10-bit ProRes recording, but what's really making the difference on this shoot is the pre-roll feature that somehow records for a few seconds before you hit the record button. Anyway, it's looking like this shoot is going to be far more of a test of me as a camera operator and observer than a test of the equipment. I need to quickly anticipate the best direction to point the camera, decide when is the right time to wait, and when to move on to the next spot.
I feel like an urgency about this. Like I want to just not miss anything, but I think I can relax a bit and just get the shot right.
Now usually for an outdoor shoot like this, I'd screw an ND filter onto the front of the lens so I can shoot at my preferred ISO and aperture, but that involves a lot of this, which really slows down a shoot, especially when you change lenses. It makes far more sense to have the ND filter behind the lens, like on the C70, where you can change the exposure by just pressing a button. The alternative I'm using for my rig is this Photodiox ND throttle adapter, which converts my camera's lens mount for EF lenses and adds a variable ND filter in between. To be honest, it's not a great ND filter, but you can't beat the convenience, so I find myself using it a lot, especially with manual lenses like this old 135mm I found on eBay for 50 quid. If I want to use modern lenses, I'll switch to this electronic adapter from Fringer, so I can control the aperture electronically. And in this case for ND, I'll use these magnetic zoom adapters that go between the lens and filter, so I can snap them on quickly. Now, are these alternatives as efficient as a cinema camera with built-in NDs? Not quite, but today they've been fast enough that I haven't been missing any shots while messing with filters. One thing I'm noticing on this shoot is that I tend to set up shop and wait for something to happen, while Seb has been more proactive, moving around and always looking out for new things to film. While we're collaborating, I think it's nice to have a balance between those two shooting styles, but if I was shooting solo, I'd definitely want to move around more.
I think if we go around there, we'll be able to separate them out a bit more. But I think up there is a really nice angle because we can get slightly closer.
Now doing a shoot like this without much of a plan has been a good exercise, especially as someone who would rather over-prepare than work spontaneously. It's always a good thing to get out of my comfort zone. I find myself wanting to film everything, just in case, but I know I've got to imagine how the shots might link up in the edit, or else we'll end up with just a random selection of footage, nothing to connect it into a story.
But yeah, maybe our story is about the friendship of these two different species, or even just the nuisance of the birds, if you know.
The cheekiness.
It's interesting, we've both, without talking about it, we've both ended up shooting the birds.
Yeah, but from different angles.
Now the last thing I want to quickly geek out about is these V-Lock batteries I'm using on my rig. It is so nice to use a battery that can run for more than 2 hours while powering both my camera and my monitor recorder, with a couple of spare ports available for other accessories too. Then when I run out of juice, this is the only battery I need to swap. I really appreciate that simplicity. And since this is kind of supposed to be a comparison video, I guess the C70 does have the benefit of a smaller battery that can still power the camera for a good while. But these V-Lock batteries are more universal and customizable, so it's hard to say which is best. I definitely think my Z6 is still in the race thanks to the monitor recorder, the ND adapter, and batteries that will work with nearly any camera. So before we lose all the daylight, we want to film in a different area, and we actually managed to find some bigger stags, but they were even more docile than the other herd of deer, and so neither of us managed to get very much useful material. I guess this is why people don't try to film nature docs in one day. There are so many factors outside of your control. You know, for about 5 minutes we had some sunshine that totally transformed the footage.
Ah, it's so gorgeous. I want to film everything again. Isn't it amazing?
But then it went straight back to being cloudy again shortly after. So I'll be honest, it was a tough challenge, but I'm committed to this, so I would now like to show you a short little edit of the footage that we filmed today. Okay, so today I was hoping to prove that my mirrorless rig is as good as a cinema camera, and after seeing Seb using the C70, I think it's not too far behind, especially for the kind of stuff I shoot. I think there are plenty of filmmakers out there who could give their existing cameras a couple extra features with accessories, rather than paying top dollar for a camera that has everything built in. Sure, the workarounds have their quirks, but the pieces can be reconfigured for different cameras and different situations, so hopefully these will stay with me for much longer. But either way, the thing I keep coming back to is just how impressed I am with wildlife documentary filmmakers. I found this to be a tough shoot, and I can't imagine what it's like to shoot a really rare species of animal or wildlife that's not used to seeing humans at all. So if you ever want to be humbled and put your storytelling and camera work skills to the test, just try making a nature documentary sequence in a day. It's a good challenge. I'd like to thank Vido for sponsoring this episode. Now, Vido is a video organizer that I've been using to quickly tidy up my files. Like here, I have a bunch of footage I've shot over the past few months and dumped all into one folder. But if I import it into Vido and organize by capture date, it will automatically sort them into a folder for each filming day. Much better. I'm also pretty sure I have some extra copies of these files left on my desktop, so if I import that too, then Vido will scan through all of my folders looking for duplicate copies. Once that's done, I can filter to see only the files that have an identical copy. Then if I select my desktop, I can delete those duplicates from that folder. Now I've freed up some disk space without losing any of my footage. So thanks to Vido for supporting this episode, and you can learn more about their post-production organizer by clicking the first link in the description. Alright, my name's Cade, this has been DSLRguide, and I'll see you next time.